Okay, so hi guys. Today we are gonna start reading this book and actually finish reading the entire book. This is gonna be a one session and we'll go through the entire book. And this is like just for educational purposes so that I can also and you can work on our English and actually gain some knowledge while doing so. So, this is 24 Hours Startup, a book which I had been wanting to read for a long time, and Fraser Dorothy MBE was the writer because I thought about reading this book. It's been a while, and the reason being, this guy launched the entire startup in 48 hours. So, there are no reason for us to be like mm, procrastinating or not doing what we are supposed to do. There are only 9 chapters, and we'll go through the chapters one by one and we'll discuss the chapters after we are done with the chapter. Okay, so give me a second. I seem to be having some problems. I'm not really sure about why is it happening. Yeah, okay. So here it is. Geo. Gonna be 1080p. Yeah, I think that's about it. Okay, so let us actually start reading the book. I'm gonna skip through the first few introduction and whatnot. You can read it on your own if you want. Okay, so let's start. Chapter 1. One weekend. Is it possible to come up with an idea for business and be up and running, selling a product to paying customers, all in the space of 2 days? That is the question that we are gonna find out in the book, which is, we clearly know is a 48-hour startup. So it shows how within a weekend you can launch your idea into a business. This is for all of you guys out there who think that they have a great idea but can't really work upon it. You have a weekend. Everyone has a weekend. Free. We spend it on different things, waste it necessarily. So you can put that time into your idea or the business that you had. Let's start. This was the question that first started my journey with the 48-hour startup, a slightly crazy experiment that I took on in the spring of 2016 without any real idea of what the outcome would be. I wanted to give it a shot to see if the above challenge were possible to achieve. With all of the modern tools available to us entrepreneurs, and by applying the many lessons I've learned so far in my exciting, challenging, and at times downright bizarre career in my business. Hold on a second. Give me a moment. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, throughout my adventures as a young entrepreneur, I've had the pleasure of speaking at literally hundreds of entrepreneur events around the world. No matter how different the culture of the host country might be from my own, I've always felt in, at home in the company of other entrepreneurs. We are sort of a dysfunctional global family of people who just happen to think the same sort of way. People who don't want to work for someone else, but who want to make a mark on the world in our own particular way. We are a group of people who like coming up with ideas, sometimes inventing products that hitherto didn't exist in the world. In my experience, at least, we are also a group of people who tend to feel that life is short and that we ought to make the most of every second that we have. For all kinds of reasons, we see starting a business as the best way of doing that. An opportunity to make a career for ourselves, maybe work with our friends, do something we love, and perhaps in some small way change the world. What more could you want from your work? But something I found on my travels in this community is that not all people who feel this way actually act on their emotions. In fact, most of the people who harbor such feelings live their lives in a fashion that contradicts them. They hold down a job, study at university, work towards a rise, pay their mortgages, and generally go along with their status quo. The cult of entrepreneurship. So, this is something that a lot of people actually go through. Let's read and find out. Everywhere I've gone on my trips, speaking at different entrepreneurship events, I've been aware of the legions of entrepreneurs who frequent such conferences. People who think a lot about starting a business, they attend the seminars, they buy all the books, even meet with successful entrepreneurs to ask for advice, but they never actually start. Perhaps they don't start out of fear of failure, or maybe they just procrastinate, putting things off for another day. I'm sure a lot of them are waiting for the perfect idea, which will never really come. They're always telling their friends about the idea of the week, never giving enough focus to one idea for it to become anything close to reality. Far too often, entrepreneurs will inhabit this very healthy process of keeping their ideas all bottled up to themselves, never even so much as sharing them with anyone, let alone actually getting them onto the market. I think this is such a tragedy. No doubt, all kinds of ideas don't make it onto the world, and most importantly, so many people don't get the chance of taking them there. Maybe some of the justifications for inaction sound familiar, and I don't want to be the one who says it, but maybe, just maybe, the phrase entrepreneur applies to you. But don't worry, it's a very curable disease. I can assure you that if you are willing to take action, then it's not a phrase that will describe you for much longer. So here's the thing, I do kind of think that I belong to this group, but not really, because I do have a few ideas that I would want to work upon. I just had been limited by many different things for a long time. So if you actually feel like you belong to this group, if you identify as an entrepreneur, as it says, we can read through the book and, as it says, find the curable disease. It's a curable disease, so find the solution to it. Tell everyone your idea. There's something that, for me, absolutely sums up the entrepreneur mentality. Quite often, at the end of one of my talks, people will come up to me and introduce themselves. They'll say, "Hey, I have a great idea for business." And I'll say, "Oh, great. What's your idea?" "Oh, no, I can't tell you that. What if you steal it?" they'll shriek. Not only is this kind of funny, I think it's totally upside down. In my mind, if you have an idea for a business, especially if it's a half-baked one, you should tell anyone who listens. You never know which person might help you. They might give you some useful feedback or introduce you to someone who works in your industry, or if you're very lucky, point you in the direction of a willing customer. Because people keep their cards close to their chest in this slightly misguided way, I never do get to hear all of these ideas. I should probably be careful what I say, because for all I know, some of these people I've met are working on truly revolutionary, paradigm shifting, world changing innovations. Chances are, however, that they are not. And that's just not me being mean. I'm sure you're well aware the likelihood of any idea going anywhere is pretty slim. Most new businesses make barely off the starting block, and more often than not, the ones that do not are destined to fail. So, in the light of the terrible odds facing these bright eyed entrepreneurs, the changing of their business, making it, at least in my opinion, even more slim. If their ideas hadn't had so much as had the oxygen of discussion, they don't really stand a fighting chance. Pessimism and optimism. Ideas are extremely precious little things. You can absolutely assume that the first incarnation of any idea is completely wrong, that it needs more bashing about, further iterations until it actually makes sense. I sometimes think that the perfect environment for an idea is to succeed is one which equal parts of blind optimism and honest pessimism. I actually do this a lot. I have a lot of blind optimism, and the person I discuss my idea with has a lot of honest pessimism. Let me explain what I mean by this. First off, there's definitely a need for a little bit of blind faith in the recipe of what makes an idea succeed. If you analyze an idea enough, you'll soon put yourself off starting it at all. Thing is that most ideas don't make a lot of sense in the beginning. It's only by having the faith of actually getting them going and learning as you go that you'll wind up hitting upon a model that works. So, because of this, throw yourself completely into your idea, even if it's not all perfectly mapped out at the start. So many entrepreneurs are waiting to complete a business plan or do more market research. The truth is that your idea will never be perfectly formed before it gets out in the world. Basically, you just need to start. Coupled with this faith, you need your idea to go through a bit of a beating. If nothing else, you need to talk to a few people to be sure that you are not completely crazy, or at least that your idea isn't. You'll be tempted to simply ask your family and friends what they think, but the fact is, they aren't really going to give you impartial advice. They love you too much to tell you honestly if your idea stinks. So, you need to try running your ideas past some people who have been there and done it before, or some people who are inside your chosen industry, who know what they're talking about. You need to find some people who aren't afraid of hurting your feelings, people who won't have any kind of vested interest in you or your idea. The process doesn't need to take a lot of time, and of course, later in the book we'll talk about some way that you can find this critique very quickly. If you can muster up enough optimism to throw yourself wholeheartedly into your idea, and also find some pessimists to help bash it into shape, your little caterpillar of a concept might well grow into a beautiful butterfly. Of course, some of your ideas will be beaten to death by pessimism, and perhaps quite rightly. Never be too pig-headed to change your idea or change your mind. If all the advice comes back as a thumbs down, maybe you should consider your other option. No matter how many ideas you have to go through, the most important thing is that you maintain your optimism. I guarantee that if you do that, eventually you'll make a start and you'll graduate from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Yeah. Oh, this is a long chapter. I didn't think that through. So like 34 pages and we are 5 pages in. Make sure you can get any coffee or anything to sit down, relax. If you have a book, you can read with me. Put me on a low volume and then I'll give you company. If not, if you want me to read you the book, you can obviously listen to me. I am gonna stop in between for the discussions that we're having right now. Also, let's start. His story as an entrepreneur. My start as an entrepreneur. Okay, actually, let's start with be willing to try part of the chapter. I'll be back in a bit. Okay, I'm back. Let's start. I'm not really sure if the music is too loud or too quiet, so I'm just gonna put it a bit down. That seems good. Be willing to try. Of all all of these early experiences as a kid really shaped my attitude in business to this day. I was very lucky to have parents who stressed to my brother Connor and me that the most important thing in life was to find something that you love. That to get up in the morning and do something you enjoy is success. They never tried to push a particular direction and always supported us, no matter how bizarre our dreams at the time might have been. Looking back, I'm amazed the parents showed such patience throughout my eccentric childhood attempts at making money. Okay, okay, let's skip the chapter because I just want to get in the nitty gritty of it, the good shit that I want you to study, to read. So let's move on. Okay, BA52, a similar business that I was involved in starting, is BA52, Craft Beer Club. My now business partner, James Brown, had been on a motorcycle trip around Europe with his dad, during which they stopped at craft beer bars and breweries, refreshing themselves along the way. The way I tell that makes it sound like they were drink driving, but I promise you they were not. The trip ignited James' passion for craft beer. With some quick internet research, he learned that there are more than 14,000 microbreweries in the world, really popping up everywhere. But how do you discover the best ones? He decided to do something about this. There were a few ideas thrown around, being a tasting club or something else. So, the idea of Beer 52 was born, a monthly selection of craft beers around the world and deliver a mixed case of bottles directly to our customers' doors. A monthly subscription. Selling beer on the internet. Neither of us really knew how to build a full on subscription website from scratch. The great thing is they didn't have to. Shopify was a good option. They hired a freelance designer to craft a simple logo, then mocked up an example how they wanted the box to look, and booked a photographer for some to create some images for the site. Within no time, they had a website giving the illusion that they were an established brand. With the building blocks in place, we immediately started. Hold on. Yeah, we immediately started calling up breweries to ask if they'd sell us, say, 100 bottles of beer for us to send out in deliveries to our customers. For the most part, they did not return our calls. It wasn't large enough size to order for them. We tried a different angle. We rang breweries and asked if they would send us 1,000 bottles of their beer for free. In return, we'd get it out of into the hands of people who love craft beer. Breweries found these kind of numbers much more exciting and agreed to give it a shot. Samples started arriving within days, and we had the oh so difficult task of deciding which were our favorites to print into the inaugural selection box. We arranged for the beer to be delivered to a third party fulfillment center, a place that had the ability to store and pack our orders as they came through, simply by charging us a small fee for each one that went out the door. In the end, we produced 1,500 cases for our launch. It was a bold move, but we knew that the subscription business we would need to attract a critical masses of members. Only some of those who took up our initial offer would go on to become loyal members. To attract this initial critical mass, we knew we had to do something more than just hand out some flyers on the street. It would take a bolder and more unconventional initiative to get 1,500 people to sign up for our club in the first month. We came up with the idea of using Groupon. Let me just put on my phone to charge because it isn't really charged right now. So, I just realized a problem. And it's not really a problem if you don't look at it. Okay, never mind. So, we came up with the idea of using Groupon. Normally, people would say that using a discount website to launch a business amounts to suicide. Surely that's not the sort of place that great brands go to face their deaths, not their births. But the way we saw it, there was no better way to get into a launch into the email inboxes of millions of people from day one by giving them a special deal on their first box, just €9 instead of the usual 24. Hopefully, a large number of people would take it up, and assuming our product was any good, hopefully enough would stay into the following month to pay the full price. Deal launched. Within 40 minutes, we had sold out of beer. We were so excited, the people at Groupon were too. They never sold beer before on their site, so perhaps we had helped them to discover a whole new category of opportunity. Now, all we had to do was send the orders across the warehouse to be shipped to our customers. If only it were that simple. We had never shipped glass bottles of beers before and had thoroughly tested our packaging. In our rush to get our product to the market within days, when we were flooded with hundreds of complaints, about a third of the packages had arrived smashed at our customers' doors. Not really an ideal way for our brand to introduce itself to the world. In the end, we replaced all of the broken bottles and refunded those customers. A lot of them were so impressed by how we handled the problem that they stayed with us to this day. We went on to improve our packaging and have since more than 100,000 members join our group. Have we had any views yet? Let me see. Well, none. What are you doing, guys? Come on. What was I doing? Okay. I was scrolling through, yeah. In my case, I wrote a pretty long and random list of things that, off the top of my head, I thought were cool or that I'm passionate about. Startup, business. This is him listing out the entire things that he might be interested in. Articulating why I like them because of the things, problems. The perfect way to start is identify problems with the chosen themes: vegetarian food, travel, ice cream, and porridge. Business models. Rather than just coming up with a solution for this problem of the blue, it's best to try to come up with them in conjunction with the business model that might make a solution a profitable one. Coming up with a solution to a problem is one thing, coming up with a business is something else entirely. Attaching your solution to a business model is what makes the difference. There are hundreds of different models you can employ, and below are the few. You'll have a list of your own based on which you think have the most potential. Advertising. If you create a site, a magazine, or an app that draws enough traffic, you can generate revenue using likes of Google AdSense. Agency, affiliate, concierge, daily deal, digital downloads, door to door, drop shipping, e commerce, premium, live events, manufacturing, good old fashioned marketing stuff. I got my start by making a product in my parents' kitchen, and there's nothing to say that you can do the same. Perhaps you can make something by hand yourself, then one day you can graduate to factory production. Marketplace, matchmaker, mobile payments, mobile apps, party planning, pay what you want, pop-up store, peer-to-peer, pre-sales, production on demand. It's really cool if you can design a product, promote it for sale online, and only press go on the production once someone places an order. This eliminates the risk of holding stock that maybe nobody will want to buy. If you're sourcing from Far East, you'll need to make it clear how long they have to wait for receiving the order. So, the idea. The next step: solve some problems that have identified using one or more business ideas that can appeal to you. I simply couldn't come up with any solution at all, which is probably always going to be the case. vegan food, poor selection of vegan food in supermarkets, e-commerce sites selling vegan food online. I'm just gonna turn on the fan. I hope it's not gonna mess up the audio. So he has settled upon an idea. Pimped up porridge oats. What should be the checklist to see if an idea is good? Are you interested in the product? Would you buy this product? Honestly, would you? Do you have enough about this kind of business to stand a chance? Do you know enough about this? Are enough other people are interested in this business as you are to make a business? Is there a compelling story about why you are starting this business? Are you conceivably Can you conceivably put a product into the world in 48 hours time? Is the competition sufficiently rubbish that you can think you'd do better? Does it pass the grandma test? Grandma test. No matter how high tech or complicated innovation is, if you can't explain it to your grandma or any grandma for that matter, you haven't thought it through enough. As part of the 48 Hours Startup podcast series, I interviewed one of the entrepreneurs. A journey of 1,000 miles. To-do list. Journey of 1,000 miles. Start with just a single step, as the saying goes, or perhaps a couple of dozen steps in the case of a 48-hour startup. Now that we have a more refined version of our idea ready to put into action, this is a good time to write a complete list of tasks that need to be completed over the remaining day and a half. Building a business in a short time might well seem overwhelming, but once you break down the entire process in a couple of dozen tiny steps, it suddenly starts to feel possible. There are some online applications that you might find helpful for managing your to-do list for this project, such as Evernote. Honestly, I'm using Notion for this. To-do list. Your list will be completely different to mine, but here are the steps that I plan to complete in the next couple days to get my product in the market. And just for the satisfaction of it, I've crossed the tasks that I've already done. Write down my interests, identify the problem, brainstorm possible solution, match solution to business models, select the ideas that seem feasible, pick the idea that has the best chance of success, run the grandma test. Still to do, talk to a customer, research your competition's pricing, decide my pricing and figure out if it's possible. Check. I would need to sell an insane volume to cover the fixed costs. sense check the idea with an expert, come up with the names, create a strapline, register a domain name, set up a company email address, register a phone number, find a designer to create the brand and packaging, create a mood board, choose possible fonts, brief designer to create logo and branding, source the product, order off the shelf packaging for the first batch of product, order promotional materials, find food stylist and photographer to shoot my product, write the basic text and info for the packaging and website. Ugh, time to get some sleep. Day 2. Print the label designs in the print shop, attach the packaging, get the food stylist to shoot the product, build the website, create social media accounts, upload your final product images to the website, figure out how to get the first customers, send out the first order. Talk to a customer. This looks so blatantly simple and so easy that it is often overlooked. In all companies, we develop really abstract ideas of who our customers are and what is they want. We read studies about them and market research report and read up on the latest trends. Sometimes, though, the best answers can be found by simply talking to our customers and listening to what they say. Now, Steve Jobs famously said that his customers didn't know what they wanted until he showed it to them. I think it's true that most people don't really know what they want. I certainly don't. So, just asking people straight up what they want is not going to give you useful information. However, you can learn a lot from what people actually do. Which of your customers' competitors' products do they buy and why? Why did they first hear about the brand? Where do they buy it from? What do they do with it? These kind of questions you ask will be dependent on the kind of products you're selling. Particularly if you're trying to sell to businesses, there's a huge amount of value in understanding how they already solve the problem that you're working on and what about it still causes them pain. The first step is going to be finding a customer or a few customers to talk to. In my case, since my product will be selling through stores, it makes sense to try getting in touch with a retail buyer to ask what it would take for, for them to put something like this onto their shelves. Ask a buyer. When I was originally trying to sell super jam to Waitrose, I showed up at 16 years old wearing my dad's suit. I received what is probably the most useful advice for my career. All I had was an idea. I didn't really know how to put it into action, and sitting across the table from me was someone who could tell me how to do it. Sometimes, when people are trying to sell a product to a retailer, especially a big one, they think the only approach is to go there and pretend they have all the answers with all the guns blazing, the apprentice style. In fact, if you can just be honest with the buyer, tell them that you're trying to achieve and why, you'd be amazed at how willing they'd be willing to give you some advice. Whatever kind of customer you're trying to sell to, the most important thing to do is actually listen. Be willing completely to change your concept in light of what customers say. Am I done with the first chapter? I am. No, I'm with the first two chapters. I can complete this chapter and then I'll take a break. I'll probably pull back up the steam after the break because I can see no one really has showed up. Well, that sucks for you, doesn't it? Yeah. So let's go through this shit. Because this is really inspiring to me. I'm not really sure if you get the same feeling because you might not have the need to start up a business or start up a self funded, like a self sufficient business model, which I don't really have to be a part of after a few years, say. I am gonna go through this entire thing. This is really good. I am actually gonna read this. Money and everything. This is really, really sorrow in ways that I did not think that people would be when you ask them about how you want to start your business or if they can give you any advice for that matter. Um, Another thing that I need you guys to know is that this is going to be a series where I just study, read the book out aloud, and work on my accent. Alright, then let me just take a break. I'll come back to it. This has been great. I hope you have been inspired to read this book, 48 Hour Startup. I am going to be waiting for your responses, your comments, your likes. And keeping it all together, I will be back after a bit and will continue from the page that I left it on. So, necessarily the third chapter. Hold on. Yeah, the third chapter. I will complete this, we'll move on to the fourth in the next video. This is going to be the entire stream that it has been. And another thing that I would like to request to you is if you are reading a book, please try to make a way to read it out aloud. If you do that, you will really improve your pronunciation, accent. Like if you are someone whose second language is English, you'll find a way to speak English more and improve that, work on that, practice English. And if it's your first language, you will be better speaking, you will be better at public speaking, you'll be better talking to people in or or just pronunciation in general. So I would really request you if you can find a way to speak as you read. Although I do understand it will slow down your speed because there are a lot of people who read like fast or think in our heads while we read. This is going to be a problem. But I really suggest you. This is just going to be something that you need to get used to. It's just going to be something in the beginning. After you get used to it, you will really improve your English speaking, or not just English, speaking in general. If you're working on accent, this is really good too because I did think about that. Anyway, keeping all this aside, let me just take a leave for a bit. I'll be back and we'll continue with the book.